Adoor, thank you so very much for being with us with IFFSA this evening for you, afternoon for us. And if I could go into the very first question, and which is um, legacies of all kinds, in all fields are very, very important. They can be a boon, and they can also be a poison, you know. And I think, like many filmmakers coming after Satyajit Ray, who is, of course, very important to us, we wonder if Mr. Ray had never made films, what would have been the loss, you think, for Indian cinema?
I have often thought about this question because I think the Indian cinema would have been very different. At best, it would have become something like Shantaram did. You know,
Indeed.
songs, dances, melodrama, and some lofty ideas, you know, that kind of things. That would have made the final word of Indian cinema.
Yes.
Ray happened to be the first complete artist to come and work in cinema. This has made the big difference.
Yes.
He did not think about compromise. He did not think about the audiences. That means the crowds. It's very, very interesting because he was a complete outsider to the so-called film industry. Complete outsider. His cameraman was an outsider. He had never shot any movie before, not even a short film. He was still cameraman. It's very interesting. And the whole team he gathered around himself. And then it was only the passion that really took him into filmmaking. He was an avid film goer. Basically, he learned a lot of his craft from Hollywood films these days. And also he has said very interestingly, he said, I learned how to make films from the Hollywood films. I also learned how to not to make bad films, how not to make bad films.
Yes.
From the Hollywood films, he said.
Yes.
So he learned both ways, in fact. And the idea, see, he was basically a painter, an artist,
Yes.
Basically, he was that. And then he never wrote a script. It's very interesting because he never wrote a script for Padma Panchali. He had only drawings. The drawings were the base on which he shot the film. So he was seeing the whole film visually. That made a big difference. The whole approach was different. So that is why Padma Panchali marked the very beginning of the good cinema or the real meaningful cinema in Indian context. It would have been very different otherwise. In fact, there were other filmmakers, very important. They are also very close to my heart. Like Jit Katak was also my teacher. Then Manal Sen, who was like my elder brother. Had a very good relationship with him. All this field would have, they wouldn't have been noticed if Ray's first film made a mark abroad, and people were waiting for his next film, second film, third film, like that. So that did not happen to anybody else. He opened for all of us, the whole world of Indian culture and cinema to the world. This is what happened. And that's why I think he marked the very beginning of the best of Indian cinema. And we all take off from there. None of us imitate him because it's not possible to imitate a master like that. And we develop on our own. So we have been exposed to the best of world cinema, from the very beginning. We have been regular, formal students of cinema. So that apart. But then for an Indian filmmaker, particularly, Ray is very, very important because he is the one who interpreted Indian reality the best possible way. And when you look at Padma Panchali, when you look at Abharajido or Abur Sansar, you feel this is very Indian. Indian in every bit of it. There is nothing. Although he has been watching Hollywood films, there is nothing of Hollywood in it. There is only India, Indian ethos. This is remarkable. This is what marks out Ray as the real Indian champion of Indian cinema, as the real hero of Indian cinema, or the real beginning of Indian cinema. This is what I think.
Right. And then I was wondering, Adoor, we are talking about what it would have meant to Indian cinema. Yes, of course, if Ray had not made films, you know. But I'm wondering what it means to
Yes.
you personally.
No, for me, again, although as a student of cinema, the former student of cinema at the Film Institute, uh, I was learning the language of cinema there, and I have seen films from all over the world, from through the decades, all the masterpieces and all that. So naturally, you are excited by these films, although you don't imitate any of them. No, it's very important. And then watching Ray, even at that time, Katak himself used to show Ray's films and exclaim very loudly, "Here is great cinema." Once I told Satyajit Ray about it. I said, "This is what he was talking." Then he said, Katak was Adoor, Katak was one person who had cinema running in his veins. He said, it was remarkable. They had great respect for each other. And one was an erratic genius, the other was very, very, very systematic, very organized. These are the difference.
Indeed.
But then they were both great filmmakers.
Yes.
So I see them like that. So as for me, I am like Ray, like every other Indian filmmaker. When we deal with Indian reality, what he taught me was that here cinema is made in details. This is what I see great about Ray. Once I talked to him, I said, "You see the novel I have read. I feel that you have invested so much in terms of details into the original work." So he said, "No, Adoor, it was all in the book." This response was remarkable. He said, it was all in the book." That was being very, very nice. But fact is different because such details no writer can be writing.
Right.
There are things which only cinema can do. So we can see that in the film. We can see. He did not want to claim anything. That's what it was. So for me, it was great lesson watching. Even the other day, I was writing about Ray's trilogy, and I wrote about those three films. And my best film that I like the most, the dearest films of Ray, these three of the trilogy, and then uh, um, Jalsakar, Devi, and his children's film, uh, Sonar Kella. These are my favorite films. These are my favorite films. Sonar Kella, first time I watched it, it was such fun, You never get that feeling from any other children's films, not at all. And nobody has even imitated Ray, to make such good children's films. Sonar Kalla is wonderful, like our films. So he could do it for and another thing that marked out Ray was his humor, remarkable humor.
Yes.
I remember one scene from Pathar Panchali where there is some village festival going on, and then very loud drumming goes on, and with the trumpet and all that. So there are two old men trying to talk to each other. Then one is holding, he is like this, key. The other fellow says something, key. It's nothing. They cannot be talking, but they are trying to talk. So there is so much fun in it. So he has seen the absolutely uncommon in the common. That's what he did. So, and there are other instances also where he is extremely playful, and we enjoy that. It comes from the real scene that is seen before you. It emanates from there. It's not thrust on anything. That's very beautiful. So these are things mark out Ray as someone very unique in Indian cinema, in the world cinema, in fact. Yes.
Indeed. I know, Adoor, and you've spoken about it earlier also, that you really had quite a close relationship with him.
Yes.
And I was wondering, how did that start, and how did it develop?
In 1979, I had made my second film in 78. Then it was shown in the Indian Panorama in Madras in 78. And then actually at that time there was no subtitling possible. There was no subtitling in India. Otherwise you had to send it abroad and all that. That was not in practice. In fact, the Indian Panorama itself started from that festival in Madras in 1978. So all our films were shown without subtitles. So it did not mean anything to those people from even the neighboring states. They did not make much. It did not make much meaning. So by the time we then in the same year, we tried to develop some subtitling process in Bombay. There was this remarkable person called there was this Mr. I forget his name suddenly. He had a Rauko.
Yes, Mr. Rao. Yes, yes.
He was a remarkable person, a genius of a person. He kind of invented some process of subtitling. And I had in his lab, I used to sit with him. The block will be heated, and there will be and it will be punched like that. So I sat with him and did my help him also with it. So somehow we managed to get some kind of subtitling on the print. And with that print, I went to Delhi in 1979 at the time of the International Festival. What I did was to organize a small private screening of the film. There was this army photo division's small hall was there near the Shashtrapati Bhavan. So I organized the screening there, and then it so happened Satyajit was staying in the same hotel, Ashoka. So I went and met him. I gate crashed, I met him and invited him into the screening. He said, I will come. So he came along with a few other guests I had invited. As soon as the show started, I couldn't believe it. I was sitting at the back. He started laughing aloud, very loud. He was enjoying the film. There's a lot of humor in the film, of course. Throughout the film, he enjoyed it thoroughly. And after the film was over, he said, come on, we will talk. So we went back to the Ashoka. In the foyer, we were sitting together, and then he started talking. He asked me, see, that film did not use any background score. There was no background music. I used only incidental sounds and other sounds. So he asked me, are you not going to use any background score? I said, no, it's not like that. My first film had background score. This film, I did not want to have any background score because the background score will somehow underline one way for the film to be taken. Whereas this man is wayward. He cannot be put into one track. This is the character. So I just wanted to leave him like that. He liked that answer. He said, oh, I see. But then when you told me, when you use music, background score sparingly, it will have effect. I said, I agree with you. He said, that's how it started. And we must have spent at least an hour talking to each other. That was very interesting. And later, every film of mine, I could show it to him because then normally there will be one screening in Calcutta. So at that time I will be there, and then I'll invite him over the phone, but he will definitely come, watch the film. Next morning I have to go to him to listen to him. He ask questions and this and that. It was like that. So over a period of time, he liked me a lot. I could see that because of my work he liked. And he used to tell people, that there were journalists who used to go and ask him, who is your favorite filmmaker? And to my great surprise and my pleasant surprise, he said, Adoor and nobody nobody else. that was quite a lot. So the Calcutta filmmakers, young filmmakers were obviously very angry with that. Pointing me out like that, so that, but all the same, I kept that relationship. Until I made my film, this film, the last one he saw of mine was Madhuligal, that's the waltz.
I see.
Yes, that was in 80, I think. no, no, 90, in the year 90.
Yeah.
90 January, the festival was being held in Calcutta. So at that time, he already had an operation. He was asked not to travel, to go out or even climb any steps. This was the instruction given. So I knew he couldn't have come. But all the same, as usual, I called him on the phone. I said my film is screening at such a time. But then this was at the Gorky Southern. As you know, Gorky Southern, you cannot go there by car. You have to climb so many steps, a long flight of steps. So I was not hopeful that he will come. But all the same, just 5 minutes before, I kept waiting for him outside. Just 5 minutes before, a car came and stopped him, down there at the steps, and emerged a ray out of that. So I ran down to him and I said, Manikda, you made it. Yes, I had to come. He said, yeah. Then slowly he walked up all the steps. And nobody could help him because he was so tall and built, he couldn't. I could be of no help to him by holding him. So, so he came, he saw the film, and at the end of the screening, he told me, fabulous, marvelous, Adoor, marvelous. This is that's what came out of it. So that was quite a lot again. So then that was it. Then he was deteriorating in his later, health was deteriorating and all that.
Yeah.
So this was a great experience for me, to be liked by him, to appreciated by him. It was great encouragement, in fact, for me. I could tell myself, well, you are on the right path.
Right.
The master has approved of you. In fact, once he even asked me, while we were talking after one film, and once he came to Trivandrum at my invitation, there was a whole retrospective of his films done by the Surya Society in Trivandrum. So the Mr. Krishnamurthy, who has been organizing the Surya Society, he wanted my help to get Ray down in Trivandrum. So I intervened and I wrote to him and I talked to him and I said, you have to come because there's a big tribute to you being done by the Keralites, who are great admirers of your work. So he agreed. And at least 2 or 3 days before, he said, Adoor, I am worried because I get this fever, somebody called malaria. So he said, I get this malarial attack almost every year around this time. So I'm told, it's not very wise to travel at this time. I said, Manikda, you cannot do that, you just cannot do that because we are waiting for you and we will do anything. And I assured him, we will give you the best treatment that's available anywhere in India. In Trivandrum, we have such hospitals. So I assure you, nothing will happen to you. No problems will be there. So I said, okay. So finally he came and he got a royal treatment in Trivandrum. And Kerala, every newspaper gave him front page new headings. So that's why he was welcomed here. And he was, in the Tagore Theatre, which holds something like 2,000 people inside. And we had this big ovation given to him, standing ovation. And he said, I never had any experience like this before. He was overwhelmed by that, and with the love and respect he received.
Right.
So that was a great, for us also, it was a great booster of we were trying to build up this culture of cinema, respect for film culture in back home in Kerala. Because here cinema was treated very, very deservedly, it was treated very badly. It was considered, untouchable by the sophisticated and intelligentsia. That was the thing that we had to really change it, get it changed. This is one of the efforts I had made personally to assume this status which it deserves. So that's what it was. And Ray, he must be having it on his files at home. All these headlines, that appeared during those days. And he was treated as a state guest in Trivandrum, state guest. All the honor that he deserved was given. Yes, that's how we should treat great artists. That was a lesson. And I personally took him to this. There is a 16th century palace close to Cape Comorin. So we took him there, showed him around, and then he was very much interested in the architecture and things like that in that place. And we had to fly. At that time, he had no heart attack or anything. It was before that. So I made him climb so many steps up and down in that building. It's a 3-story building, But I was feeling very bad later when I heard that he had this attack. But he enjoyed every bit of it. His trip to Kerala about 3-4 days. And I even organized all young filmmakers I invited to have conversation with him. There was a round table with him and all that. So that was very inspiring. His visit was made very, very, very important. It was a landmark visit. Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful, Adoor, really. It is so beautiful to hear you speak about him. And I was wondering, because you have had such a long association with him, and during that time, you were also growing as a filmmaker from film to film to film. I'm wondering, that what was Ray's impression that you carry as a human being? How was he as a person?
I'll tell you some very interesting thing. I just forgot to mention when I was talking about him. Once Ray asked me, after screening a film, the next morning we were talking. Now, Adoor, now that you are accepted and you have made your mark, why don't you make at least one film a year? He asked. that is a very interesting question. Then I told him, Manikda, this was my idea too, to make one film a year. But practically, it's not possible. In the beginning, it was very difficult to get finance to make film because nobody would believe that somebody who had the formal training in filmmaking could make a film. It had to be in the traditional way of assisting somebody as starting as 15th assistant and climbing up the ladder, going up to second or third assistant, and then if you are lucky and by around you are 50 or plus, you are getting a chance. That used to be tradition. So nobody would imagine that somebody who comes out of a 3-year institute after 3-year course and wanting to make a film, nobody would trust you. So that was the situation. So it took 7 years for me to make my first film. So, and then the next film again another 5 years. Like that, there have been long intervals between my films. Not only because now it became a habit. That was a problem. So I could not again think about making, even when the finance was available and producers approached me to make a film. I was not ready with the project. I tell them, look, I'm not ready. So unless I am ready with the script, I'm ready with a completely worked out script and other details, I don't look for finance. Just the availability of finance does not make me prompt me to make a film, not at all. That's what made me have all these intervals between films. So now again it has become a habit, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years between. So it has a long time, but then very few films. So I jokingly tell people, look, most of the time I'm not making films. So very, very seldom I film films. This is what happened in my life. It's okay, Katak did not make so many films; made only 8 or so. Yes. And then some of the very important filmmakers have not made many films. So I tell people, why is it that you have a long career in filmmaking? You have made only 12 films. They ask me. I tell them, look, you have to put it question differently. With kind of the situation that exists in cinema industry and with the kind of audiences that are there, you should reframe your question and ask me, how did you manage to make 12 films in these years? That should be the question.
And Adoor, we are celebrating 100 years of Ray's birth centenary this year. And I'm wondering, in another 100 years, when people, I believe, and I more than hope, but I really believe that they will still be watching Ray's films. What do you think there is in his films that people will return to again and again? What is it that Ray is giving us that we would be very poor if we missed it?
Because his observation of human conditions, very close observation of lives, very close observation of situations. This is absolutely fantastic because they are valid forever. The humans will remain. We should remain the same. We may. There may come a time when the artificial intelligence will take over, but artificial intelligence has no feelings. We remain humans because we have feelings. So as long as there are humans who have feelings, we cannot but appreciate what he has done in these films. Because a film like Adoor Gopalakrishnan, I look at it as Mahabharata in cinema. The whole flow of life in front of you, it goes, it treats life, death, departures, failures, misfortunes, hopes, great love interludes, and then interludes, and then, it's a bittersweet history of human life, very closely observed human life. This is what makes it great. It's not the technology. Technologically it may look very, very elemental. It very elementary also, in fact. But what is transferred through it? What goes beyond the technology? What is passed on through that? What has come across? Through that is absolutely fantastic. That's why Ray will remain a great source of inspiration for filmmakers to come. Definitely, yes. Because when we think about, I've often been asked by the Sight and Sound. Every year they have this voting.
Yes.
Every 10 years they ask filmmakers to vote their best films. 10 films you have to mark and give, and why you have to write why. So this is an exercise that goes on every 10 years. So my first film always was Adoor Gopalakrishnan in that list, unchanging in that list. Some other films may change, but then this will not. So, but also if you look at cinema, from the very beginning, the masterpieces have remained there. Yeah, in fact, there are more masterpieces than 10. So it's very difficult to limit it to. At least there should be 25. They should ask us to mark 25 films. So this is one big problem. So in great pain, I remove one and bring in another. So that's what happens. Keeps on happening. Yes.
Adoor, this was wonderful. It is really wonderful to hear you speak so beautifully about a man who means so much to Indian cinema and who means so much to us as young filmmakers. And I can't thank you enough. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed talking to you.